Welcome back to Tools and Track. In this episode, my thoughts about this Chimaera are brought to you by Coplay. Because I will try to fix you. Well, it's not just coronavirus that's cancelled summer this year. This episode we are going to fix the TVR. All of the stuff that we've disconnected as part of the chassis resto now needs to be put back on so that we can turn the key and drive this thing again. We're starting with the fuel tank. So all of the copper lines are run from a fuel line. We did that a few episodes ago, and I've also terminated the fuel lines at the front that go from the hard lines into the engine. Now that's all pretty easy. However, to get the tank to mate to the fuel pump, and I didn't know this until the other day and I had to go and buy more bloody hose, it's 13mm. Not 8. Now that length that goes outside the car goes into this. This little U-bearing clears the chassis leg in the back. It's about the only thing I've found in the car that doesn't need replaced so far, so we're just going to reuse it. Pretty good nick. So we need to figure out where this sits, get a length that goes from here into the fuel tank, make sure it's right, nip it all up, and then throw the tank in. There'll be a lot of this, doing it right first time stuff. This is going to be a long day. Done. Handbrake's the next thing. Fairly simple. I've nipped under the car and slid the pin in, which is connecting up my handbrake. Now all I need to do is from inside the car, bolt it all up. Now get the big bolt in first, you absolute fanny. Stop pissing about. Come on. Handbrake sorted. While we are here, I've got another thing I need to do. Remember a few episodes back where we decided, do you know what would be smart? Let's not disconnect the speedo, let's just snip the wires. Well, yeah, we need to remedy that. It's me again, ya boy, Professor Bobag, showing you how to do more stuff. And today, that stuff is going to be correctly joining wires after you snip them, like an utter fanny, because you've not looked for where the plug is. First things first, find the two ends of the wire you want to join. This is actually easier said than done. Somewhere in this loom is the other end of this wire. I don't know where it is. So our speedo wire has a positive and a negative on it. Unlike other stuff that earths to the chassis, a lot of the stuff on a TVR is positive and negative, because there's not a lot of earth points to find when you're dicking around with a plastic body. So first things first, you know you're going to have to sheath this properly once you've joined it with solder, and we're only going to look at solder, no crimps, no terminals. This is the ultimate way, we'll say, of joining it. Before you do anything, much like we did with the brake unions, the heat shrink has to go in first. Or else you solder it up, forget all about it, and you're like, I can't get with this because there's no heat shrink on it. So, lots of slack on the other end of this, and now we're going to get some heat shrink. Here's some I bought earlier. I say earlier, bought weeks ago on eBay, and it's only just arrived. Our joint's going to be about 1 inch, so I'm going to put on 2 inches of heat shrink because it needs to cover the joint and then some. Pop your heat shrink over the wire and put it as far away from where you're going to solder as you can. The reason being, if you solder and heat the heat shrink, it's going to shrink. And if you shrink it before it covers where you've joined, it's pretty much useless. Trim off the sheath of the wire you want to joint. I'm taking off about 15mm on each side. Twist up the strands together so that they don't splay out. It's recommended at this point you maybe have 10 to 15mm of tongue hanging out, just to ensure proper concentration. Joining the two wires is a doddle, black to black, and then just give them a little twist together. The same way you would if you were doing a really minge bag repair. That's our wire joined together. Next up, solder. Get your soldering iron, just pop off a wee length of it, a bit like that. All you want to do is tin over this so that it's coated in solder. Once the solder dries in, it'll keep it solid and form a join. Just keep it hot and it'll soak into the strands. Lovely. Next, let this cool down. Don't move your heat shrink until that has went nice and cold, because as soon as the heat shrink gets to it, it will immediately just start shrinking. And if you've not got it all the way over this, you've shrunk it too soon. So while we're doing that, we're going to join the other side. Make sure you touch your soldering iron on every meltable component inside the car. Once it's cooled down, just slide the heat shrink over like that. Make sure that any rogue strands are not going to poke through it, otherwise you will have shorts. Then all you need to do is heat to shrink. Don't just hold this right up to the heat shrink and then wonder why everything's melted. Don't focus the heat in one area for too long, otherwise smoke will come out. That is a rejoined cable that will not fail, it will not go brittle, it will not give you irritating little breaks in your circuit, but most importantly, it will work. Right, we're going to put the exhaust manifolds back on. This is the original manifold bolt, and here are the replacements I've got. Slightly too long, so we're going to chop these down, and this is the right way you should be chopping down bolts. Put the two bolts side by side. We've got an excess of 1, 2, 3, 4 threads, so I take 4 threads off of each of these new bolts. Once you've got them all cut, you get them countersunk in one of these bad boys. It means that the threads that were buggered up from cutting here get straightened out, and this will drive into a thread with no dramas. Particularly important because the threads on the Rover V8 heads are aluminium and these are carbon steel. So they will not lose the fight if it comes time to crossfitting. And the manifolds were on. I'm sure that skin on my fingers will grow back. Heater hoses next. In this case you want 16 mils to replace the ones that you've cut off. Well, the ones I've cut off. You can probably take yours off a bit more delicately. The fitment is simple in principle. Slide them through the two holes, they'll pop through the other side, make them up to the heater ends. The difficulty is actually doing that. Let's have a go. I have to soak these a wee bit. Lubrication is your friend. Right, plan B. It's really difficult to get them to start through the hole when you're pushing them. So if you go into the footwell and push them through that way, it seems to be easier. Right, that's what I thought the difficult one would be. Pull through. Let's see if we can get the other one. As I said before, and I'll repeat until I'm blue in the face. Do this before you put the body back on. There we go. All done. Fed through. I've left a good deal of excess to trim off once we know the lengths for that. And we're all nipped up in here as well. So hopefully that doesn't present any leaks, because if it does, I'm going to open the wrist, because that was a horrific job. So sweeping forward, the next thing we need to look at is finishing off the brake lines, and then, well, then we can put fluid in. So that's all the brake unions nipped up. We'll put dot 4 in the clutch line because it's dot 4, it doesn't really matter. But for this, well, this time we're going to put in something a bit more special. So we're going to go for RBF 600 in the brakes. This is actually a dot 4, not a dot 5, that's interesting. Very good. So if you want proof of that, have a look in one of these episodes. It's popping up in the corner right now, where we discuss it in great length on a Golf. How to sort your brakes on your own. Because I am Billy Naymates today. Oh, right on the limit. That's almost a full bottle used, half litre. Now we need to get it out the other end. This is a vacuum pump. It does exactly what it says on the tin. You pump it and it creates a vacuum. The practical benefits of this are that you do not need to sit with two people, one pumping the brakes and one hoping beyond all hope that they're going to get fluid out the other end. You can just apply some vacuum and it does it for you. That's a nice hard brake pedal. That'll do. Another job I'm going to have to do is source an oil leak, which we've alluded to in other episodes, and it is not a small one. It's basically coated the whole gearbox and the whole engine in oil just before I took this car off the road. And believe me, as good as it was for chassis protection, it is not ideal. This will not be a quick job, by the way. This is as awkward as they get. I don't know how I can glam up scenes like this of me just flailing with my fat fingers trying to get bolts out. I could maybe like intersperse pictures of bikini women or something, but YouTube probably will, you know, claim that's copyright as well. Those breasts are copyrighted. Copywritten. Copyright. What's the expression? Alright, so all the bolts are now out. I've got a lovely assistant. What's that China's mate called? Paul? Is it Paul?
It's Paul, of course.
Paul.
Of course.
Of course. Helping me with this one, because he needs to hold the camera. Right. See, I put them there to be safe, and then I leaned on it, so I dropped them all into the open engine. That's professional level of stupidity.
Professional incompetence.
That's the one.
And there's your wee puddle.
Aye, it's a puddle. Where are you coming from? Cheeky little monkey. So looking at the galleries, you've got 2 coolants here and 2 coolants here, front and back. And that just allows coolant to transfer between each head. Everything else is intake. So, where's the oil coming from? Diagnosis 1. You chuck us that 13 mil over. The E1 spanner, if you would. So you see as I'm bringing this up, these ends stay at the front rises. That's because this is the compression bracket that as you tighten down will nip all of the face of this gasket. The gasket's pressed steel, by the way.
You know how you've got these new screen time apps? They're utilities that allow you to monitor what you do with your phone. See if you had a driver time app for TVRs, how much time do you think would be spent driving it versus tracing leaks?
I think it'd be 75 to 1 maybe.
That's coolant down there.
That's
That green stuff.
not oil. So where's it coming from?
I don't think I've ever actually seen this. How f***ing cool, there's the cam. You can actually see the lobes on the cam. Good example right there.
Viewers, answer on the postcard. Why am I getting oil pooling in the gallery? Outside of the gasket.
It must be originating from here.
It's got to come from above. There's a lot from above, but there's nothing above it.
All you can do is try
These rockers are the highest point oil.
try the gaskets and the rockers again, aye.
Unless it's not oil. That's power steering fluid.
There's the first steering pump. Aye.
Could be, yeah.
This homemade solution.
Shut your face.
There's no way that could possibly be leaking. But it's secured with a cable tie.
Hoses blow it.
Yep.
Could be blown by. Could be. Could be.
Oh,
Bingo.
he's got a stinky finger.
Yeah. Couple that, boys and girls, with a bit of pressure in the car, and where's that going to blow? Our leak is not oil, it's power steering fluid.
I can't believe this actually has power steering.
Thanks very much. The little one's came with it, yeah.
It's not very TVR, is it?
No, you consider the ABS never crossed our minds, but power steering did. Quite a question of logic of it. We'll seal this up, we'll revise the power steering system. Just toss it in. We'll revise the power steering system. What most folk would never even consider, I'll just, change because
TVR.
it's TVR. The last part of the gasket job are the actual gaskets. Fronty rubber and the rear rubber. Like I say, probably don't think these have failed. I'm just going to change them anyway. Orange. So just going to put a little bit of instant gasket. Right. Next, we need the gasket. Did I tell you I was paranoid? Yeah, I'm paranoid. Seal up everything. Right, skip to the end. There we go. Back on. Hopefully back on and dry, but we'll see. These guys are in another episode. I don't know if it's aired now or not. It might be coming soon. Knows, because it's just like all becoming a blur at this point. So yeah, engine's nearly done. What's next? Do you need to be told about all this again? Or will we just do a montage? Yeah, I think we'll do a montage. almost done. No matter how many times I strip this engine down and rebuild it, it never gets any easier. And I am glad it's done. Probably should put fuel in it and coolant while we're at the fluid stage. Oh, it's exciting. I first start my building. Think. What else do I need to do? It can't be that easy. Next up, fuel tank wiring, which I thought was in the car. It's not. It's behind the fuel tank. You will now see also I have got fuel tank wiring extension and a fully fitted fuel tank. Because I'm an idiot who is incapable of watching his own videos and remembering the order to put stuff back together again. Now we're at the fluid stage.
Everybody loves the fluid stage.
Hopefully it's going to be very fluid and not like full of leaks. So first up, fuel, because it's going to be the biggest ball ache to fix if there's a leak.
TVR owner challenges, your petrol filler is actually in the boot, which women in forecourts and men love when they shout over the panel at you.
I see that jerry can, son.
Have a drink, Trevor.
Can't use camera in the forecourt. Beautiful anyway. Right. Okay.
So we need to reattach this, which is resting on a bench, which I can't show you at the moment because it's a spoiler alert, which is the exhaust. And then once the exhaust's on, the fuel tank's pumped in, the wheels are on. Is that it, Tommy? Chairs, actually I've noticed the chairs are, they are sort of on the car, but they're not really, I wouldn't want to sit on them up there. That's 2 poo chutes, which means more things have happened after a substantial fuel leak.
Aye, I'm not entirely convinced that's the end of the fuel leak, but we'll persevere with it and see what happens. So we're at this wonderful stage now where it's
Dusty.
very, and time to fire it up. So
Listen for puddles. That's a high idle. What was it idling at, like 2.5k?
oh no, it was wild. It was like 3.5.
Oh wow.
Gone.
There's a leak at the front.
A bit of that. That's just
We'll come back to you after this short commercial break.